You think you're healthy, but you're still feeling kind of tired, foggy, or inflamed. Well, this episode's going to be a fun one. I have a duo with me here. We have Sarah Collins and Jessica Rafaeil. Both are working with MDLifespan, and they are here to show you their data, their toxin tests. And we're going to talk it through what they learned, what they did about it. They both had two different approaches. We're going to dive into how their different approaches worked, what they learned, and some of the results. So you can start to understand what happens when you understand your own data, when you have a toxin test and you see what's lurking inside of you, and then giving you a bunch of options on what to do past that point. So I urge you, definitely go discover your own results. It's very simple. There's a toxin test and a talk that's available to you right now. Just go to the website mdlifespan.com/toxin test. You can use the code podcast200. It's going to knock off $200 from that toxin test. And this is the way you understand your data so you know what to do about what's inside of you. All right, let's dive into this. It's going to be a great one. There's some visuals, so make sure you're watching as well. All right, see you then. Jessica, Sarah, it's awesome to have you both on the podcast. First time we're doing like a panel talk, and this one's kind of, well, it is really fun because we chat all the time already because you both work, well, we all work for MDLifespan. So we're getting kind of some inside scoop, but you guys both have different approaches to how you've been dealing with your toxin loads. So I guess before we get into it, like starting with, I'm going to start with Sarah. What, just a brief of your, the approach to toxins. I don't want to like give it all away really quick, but like, just give me like a 30-second brief and then we'll go to you, Jessica. And then I'm going to also like interject with something I've been up to as well.
Okay. I wouldn't have been able to define toxins a year ago. I came from a pretty holistic background, yoga training, clean eater, organic eater for the most part. But if you asked me what a toxin was, I would probably say drugs and alcohol. So I have learned quite a bit since working on the business.
Nice. And we'll get into kind of the, I wouldn't say before and after, but your approach is different than what Jessica's been up to. So Jessica, yeah, let's go over to you.
I was aware of like the toxin conversation. I would have considered myself someone who lived a generally low tox lifestyle, but didn't realize the connection to, toxins have to all sorts of illnesses and ailments. And definitely had no idea that there was even a way to gauge the number of environmental toxins in my body. I was attracted to MDLifespan because of the core mission and the idea of like raising awareness about toxins, but I've learned so much about individual toxins and places that they're hiding in my home and in my life that I didn't know before.
What are the few things you've learned over the last, it's been like about a year-ish?
I came into MDLifespan in April of 2024 and was actually coming off of the wave of a pretty crazy health crisis. I was losing vision in one of my eyes and went to a lot of specialists. Nobody could figure out what was happening to me. So I was very intrigued in finding a solution, and working with Dr. Paul Savage, I learned about the connection between toxins and inflammation and toxins and disease, and how if you've got inflammation in your body's just going to go crazy. So the things that I learned, especially from taking my first toxin test, were, the toxins hiding in my food. I've always been a pretty clean eater, but there are clean foods out there that just have toxins. They have molds. They have, all sorts of plastics riddled in them that I wasn't aware of. And like beauty products, I was in the process of cleaning up my beauty to what I thought were clean products, only to find out they've still got a lot of pretty crazy endocrine disruptors. Didn't know what those were. Had no idea that I was washing my body with soap that was killing me from the inside out.
Yeah, so you definitely have done and I'll just say it here, you've been a lot more on the avoidance path.
Yeah.
So like what's kind of cool here with you and Sarah, there's two different approaches here. So we're just kind of setting the scene here, walk everybody through it. Well, Sarah, over to you with kind of the similar thing. Like, are there a few things over the last, the span of time you've been at MDLifespan, what stands out in terms of toxins, what you've taken away and like shifted your thinking around?
I would say it is not what you put in, it's what you take out. And so you think about avoidance, going to the grocery store, picking organic food, trying to pick natural products for my children. I think as a new mom, you certainly learn what's best for yourself through your children in a lot of cases. And from a avoidance standpoint in my house, after I took my toxin test, I understood, wow, this mold is in the home that I am in. We just bought this home. We're not moving to a new home. So we purchased the air purifiers that are now in each of our rooms. This home already had reverse osmosis in the home, but we've had that upgraded since. So my therapies had to be a much more intensive and kind of start at the ground level.
I mean, you nailed the big ones too, right? Our air and water, and of course food too. But it seems like would you, and with kids too, I'm just thinking because I have a couple little ones, and yeah, you said new moms. So, I mean, it's like all these things. You're just like, oh my God, I got to start the kids out right because they're just little sponges, right? Like for this stuff if you're not addressing it from day one.
What Paul has shared and the new ECHO study about children being more toxic than their parents, I saw that with both of my young children. I have a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old. The 3-year-old was more colicky than the 5-year-old, and understanding going into having children, if I would have been able to do some of those small things just in my environment, how they could be impacted.
Well, environment, and I think that's the big thing that we talked about. I guess environment meaning the location of where you live. I'm kind of curious of your thoughts there, and also just what's in your home, like because it's the stuff we can control, but we don't really. I don't feel like we understand it until we see our own data, like our toxin data, the actual numbers. So, yeah, any thoughts on that, on like location base and how that might have played into each of your, toxin loads after you figured out what's in you?
Growing up, I went to a cabin in the woods majority of my summers that didn't see the light of day in the winter. So the mold existing there, the mold existing in the homes that I've lived in. I live in Wisconsin and Milwaukee, and the home I'm in now is more than 100 years old. It's beautiful on the outside. The pipes are lead. There's asbestos in the walls. So it's a matter of, being close to the city and living in an old home, or moving half an hour out of the city for a newer residence.
And Jessica, I know you're in like a totally different kind of environment, right?
Yeah, I'm smack dab in the heart of Atlanta, in the middle of the city. So we have a lot of air pollution. There's cars everywhere and industrial activities. So it's really hard to escape unless you go, up to the mountains. But I grew up in Florida, and, there's so much going on there with the water and everything. So I think just going from that kind of environment to a big city and kind of being inundated with toxins in my environment.
But you do a pretty dang good job from what I've understood so far. We'll get into it. Jess, let's start there because I want to talk about the toxin test because both of you shared yours with me. Jessica, you have 2 of them. It's kind of like this before and after, but what was your first reaction as when you first saw your toxin load and initial reaction, and also what were the things that you started to focus on?
Gut reaction was I was shocked and I was scared. And, we can show my results from the first test that I did about a year ago already, which in retrospect, looking at the clients that we treat was not as bad. I was kind of in that middle yellow, high yellow area. The toxin test kind of score you from green to red, green being good, red being really, really bad. So I was living in that yellow space. So I was approached with, you've got the toxins, they're starting to wreak havoc on your body. And if you don't do anything now, you're going to end up in that red space and it's going to be a lot harder. I was really shocked to see mycotoxins and mold. That to me, I didn't really register, the exposure to things like that. I grew up in Florida, hurricane season, a lot of, wet, damp walls and flooding that happens. And I felt really overwhelmed, initially when I first saw it, because I started to spiral. I was like, well, I have to do everything to get rid of these plastics and these BPAs. And I'm, running through my house, just throwing things into the trash can because, they're all toxic. Everything's toxic. I think once I was able to really kind of, one, take a beat and understand that everybody has toxins and there's really no way of escaping this, especially in the world that we live in. And two, there was an opportunity to move forward in a different way. So, I didn't have to change my life in one night. That was going to be impossible. But chipping away at things slowly, taking a few weeks to kind of absorb one thing. Maybe I focused this week on eliminating all of my, laundry detergent and switching over to clean laundry detergent, and then moving to the bathroom, and then making sure that I wash all of my produce. Changing my diet was a really big thing. I didn't fully eliminate a lot of stuff, but I scaled back. I'm a big rice eater. I grew up in a Puerto Rican family. Rice and beans was a staple in our house. So, cutting back on rice because it is a source of arsenic. It is a source of mold. Switching up my coffee. Again, Puerto Rican household, daily coffee drinker. That was not going to go away. So I found, some options that do third-party testing, things of that nature. And then, as Paul always mentions, air and water. So we went from drinking in plastic water bottles to only drinking reverse osmosis bottles and BPA-free plastic or glass bottles. That was a huge thing in my house. And then finding ways to detox on my own. I was not fortunate enough to have an MDLifespan clinic in Atlanta yet. So for me, it was relying on the avoidance tactics and repairing my own detoxification process inside of my body.
Yeah, you've done it without TPE, and I don't know, no cat out of the bag yet. But like, how many toxins did you have, and kind of like where? And we'll show it on screen here, but yeah, just from how you could describe it from your.
Yeah, I had about 10 that were, in the semi-problematic range. And a lot of it was, pesticides, BPAs, and mycotoxins. Mm-hmm. And in 12 months through avoidance and other detoxification protocols that are, supported by MDLifespan protocols, I was able to bring that down to 2.
Jeez.
And they're like right at the end of yellow. So I'm just out of the green area. So
what are the 2 that left over?
Yeah. So one of them is a pesticide. So DMTP, I think, is the big one. And the other one is actually a byproduct. It's a protein byproduct that my body just synthesizes on its own. And that's just a matter of focusing on mitochondrial health, cellular repair.
That's the TG one. Actually,
yeah,
I'm
that one.
That's impressive.
Don't ask me to say it, but yeah, that one.
No, and this is why I'm like, and we're obviously not Dr. Savage. We're not going to interpret all this stuff, and there's a lot of data. Big thing is know your data, and shameless plug, but not shameless at all, but go get your data, y'all. Like, basically, at the end of the day, the toxin test is what got you this initial data, right? So you can actually understand where you're starting at. That's why there's a whole toxin test and talk. So it's not only understanding your numbers or getting your numbers, you're talking with someone from MDLifespan to actually go through and interpret the data and next steps. So
makes it a little less scary, which is also very important.
You might get the shock factor. Like my wife, Heather, just talked to Dr. Savage today about hers. And I'm like, oh, wow. And totally a new awareness. And I think it puts the blinders on the focus. So definitely go get yours at mdlifespan.com/toxin test. And there's a $200 code that if you use podcast 200, as a little coupon code, it'll knock off $200. So do it, because I don't think we've shouted out a coupon code on the podcast. We've talked about the toxin test, but that's why is know your data first. And it's the same exact one, Jessica, that you're talking about here.
Yep.
Sarah, over to you. I want to talk about like you're shaking your head.
Well, Jess had 10 in the yellow. I have 15 in the yellow and 10 in the red. So we look at 109 different toxins within 4 categories. So the definition of toxins, it falls into one of those 4 categories. Mycotoxins, which is mold that Jess already went over, environmental toxins, herbicides, pesticides, Roundup. I used to be a gardener before I had kids. Forever chemicals, so that's the PFAS and the BPA. And after that, we look at the heavy metals, which is aluminum. I just switched from deodorant and antiperspirant, which is aluminum, to just regular deodorant. That was rough. I had 10 in the high critical range, and if you go back to the stoplight of yellow, green, red, 10 in the red is pretty scary. So overall, out of the 109 that we measure for, I have 25 in the critical range.
So what was your reaction when you got your data, and where did your brain go to focus?
I just wanted to know more about each of the categories. I understood that, mold spores could be bad to breathe in. I understood that, you weren't supposed to eat fish with mercury. There's all been tidbits of information over my past. I only ate fish for 9 years, and following the research around that, and to eat, wild versus farmed, it was just starting to knock off new pieces of information that I didn't have before. Obviously, understanding what BPA risks are, and the whole shift of BPA free coming to light, there was clearly a reason for that. But what I didn't understand is how your body harnesses those toxins and creates an environment that is garbage for you to live within. I just thought, well, I'm tired in the afternoon because I've got little kids, and because I'm getting older, or I can't remember this person's name or this story because of those reasons too. Well, turns out that's not true. It's because of what's happening all in here in my body.
Well, and you brought up, it's interesting, I don't know if we have the answers, but everybody's body is different, and how we detox. And so it's obviously environmental, location where we live, what's in our house. Like, there's so many factors. So it's, I guess when you get the data, it's like, one thing is, don't beat yourself up, because anyone who gets this done, I hope you do. It's at least it's a starting point of knowing where to go, and the actions that follow. That it's your choice on how to do it. And Sarah, you did TPE recently, so I definitely want to talk about like what you did after you started learning. So like maybe go there, and then Jessica, we'll go back to you on your approach of more of the avoidance and some of these other non-TPE ways of ridding toxins.
Yeah, with the evaluation that I had with Dr. Savage, he walked me through the test and explained the areas of toxins that I wasn't familiar with. When you get the test back, it's still, I can't pronounce half of the toxins on this thing, and I don't plan to ever. But having Dr. Savage as a research source walking me through and explaining to me I needed 5 TPEs, or 5 sessions in the chair, plus avoidance, plus the IV nutrients, plus the supplementation, which also leads to the potential to have exosomes down the road. Those are the 4 pieces that set our protocols apart. It's not just, being in the chair and having your blood removed and the plasma discarded. It's all of that whole piece together. So, going into the one plasma exchange appointment, my first one, I was scared. I am very much a wimp when it comes to medical experiences. Not my favorite. That's why I didn't go into healthcare. I love helping people, but I'd rather be able to, display it and make it easy to understand versus, get in there with my hands. So I was scared. And I was shocked at how easy it went and how great I felt after.
You were actually the one. I'm thinking it was a day before I got mine done because it was just a week ago at the time of this recording. You're like, the needles were fine. The needles were fine, and you're right. They were fine. Like I had no problem with that because that was the thing I was kind of worried about too. But yeah, with each session of TPE, because I think I'll be doing 3, you'll be doing 5. But like it's not just sitting in the chair and essentially cycling your blood and removing the plasma and all that. But it's like, yeah, there's IV nutrient, depending on the type of protocol you're getting, right? There's all this other stuff, the clean supplement, like I just finished mine. And there's some other stuff that I'm sure they're all different, but I don't know if you can break that down a little bit more just so it's a little bit more clear. It's like, yeah, it's not just do this 5 times and then you're done. It's kind of this whole regimen that's happening.
Sure. So if you think about the 5 sessions that I need to get my 25 high critical toxins out, the reason for the 5 is because the toxins live in your blood. If you think about how much tissue and muscle you have in your body compared to how much blood's on the smaller percentage. So the blood is the carrier of your toxins in the plasma. So once that is removed and discarded, the albumin that comes back in and allows your body to regenerate the cells and create clean plasma becomes a sponge for all of the other toxins that are sitting in your body. In the 4 weeks in between when you have your first session in the chair to when you have your second, 4 weeks is the soonest you can do it because you want all of those toxins to come back into the blood. You're starting with your avoidance. So for me, it was investing in the air purifiers, which I bought the Germ Guardian ones. We have 6 of them, but it was like $1,000 investment. Throwing away all of the plastics, cutting boards, kids' cups, getting titanium cutting boards, and then we had the water testers come back out, and where I live, the water is great. They showed me on a scale, it was like red to green kind of thing. My city water was just above the green, and my reverse osmosis water, so let's say it was 10,000 on the chart. The city water was 140. My reverse osmosis water was 10 in terms of, great, which is, so those are the things I did within the first month. Avoidance, so that's kind of the one additional out of the 4 pillars that we have as part of our protocol. It's understanding what is it in your home, and our nurses walk you through that while you're in the chair, talking about where do you live, what are your exposures, how to get rid of them over time. Beauty products, as Jess mentioned, huge as well. Understanding we are recommending Goop as the beauty product to all non-toxic free. So starting to swap some of those things out. And then the supplementation, like you mentioned with the MDL Clean, that is a patented nutrient powder that you take every day to start to replenish all of what was taken out during your body's detox process, and it allows you to continue to detox while you're taking it. The IV nutrients that comes in right at the end of the therapy to bring you back to baseline based on what they took out, what you were experiencing, and what your body needs in the next 4 weeks. And because I'm in my first session, we aren't doing any stem cells or exosomes at this point, but that's the 4th piece that comes later down the road with additional sessions.
Yeah, that MDL Clean is like, that's beefy. It's got a lot of stuff in there. I was like, oh, like it's impressive.
Yeah, and Dr. Savage walks you through, what other supplementation are you on? You have to stop this and this because with this clean, you can't take certain supplements anymore. So it's all, medically backed and checked, and just gives you a peace of mind.
No, it's awesome. And I feel it after I have it too. I'm like, it's just, you load it up with all the good stuff. And like I said, it's replenishing and it's still detox. And that's what I have to remind myself all the time. It's like, I'm not just like, oh, in the chair, done. And it's like, no, it's a process. And this is literally months of detoxing that our bodies are feeling. Really quick before Jessica, how did you feel after your TPE session, Sarah? And like maybe like a week or like what are the after effects? Because it's a little different the day after.
Yeah, coming right out of the session, I felt good. I felt tired, but good. I drove from Chicago home. I had somebody drive me so that I could just kind of zone out. I slept really well that night, really well. And then I woke up in the morning and I was like, oh, I'm smarter than I was yesterday. And I just felt more alert. I felt eager. I felt this just drive to want more. And since you're right, I'm working with a integrative physician here in Milwaukee that's helping me with other avoidance and supplementation to keep my body detoxing and support the detox. Just other things that I have going on with my body, my hip, I'm looking at some regenerative therapies there instead of a hip replacement. And I can feel that it's getting better just by knowing I have less inflammation in my body. It's wild.
That's the key bit because I mean, we've had so many people talk about it's the root of all the diseases essentially. So getting that under wraps. Well, Jessica, I want to talk about your approach. So completely different approach. Well, not completely, but no TPE involved. So I guess what were the next steps that you took right after your test?
I'll preface by saying, before I started learning about toxins, and I was very familiar with the idea of detox at a very limited capacity, but I viewed detox as more of like a seasonal, cyclical kind of thing. Like I would do my juice cleanses every new season, or spend a week eating just plant-based foods or things like that. But learning my toxin load and just everything that's out there really changed my mindset to detoxification as a lifestyle. So how can I really incorporate detox into my everyday life? So there's, the avoidance. So swapping, doing all the swaps, drinking the clean water, cleaning your air, all of those things. And then there's supporting your own detox pathways, right? Which, if you're doing TPE, if you're dealing with chronic inflammation, those detox pathways are likely very sluggish, right? And, you could stop everything that you're doing and spend the rest of your life in a BPA-free plastic bubble, but you're not going to be able to eliminate the toxins the way that you want to. Yeah. So I started real simple, lymphatic drainage massages. There's a lot of great videos out there about the 6-point self, drainage massage. So incorporating that into my morning and evening routine. Another big one, this is a big one, and we've started incorporating it into our protocols as well, as IR saunas. I made a commitment, almost a religious one, to do saunas, IR saunas every week. I do 3 times a week. I've been doing that for a year, and I really do credit that as a huge component into being able to eliminate a lot of the heavy metals that I had in my body. So that was a huge thing. It is an investment, but there's different options out there.
And you go somewhere it's like not your own.
Yeah, I live in the city, so I have a couple sauna options in my neighborhood, which was really nice. So if you have that available to you, I highly recommend it. It's great just for mind, body, and spirit. I'm a big advocate.
Oh yeah.
It's my Zen moment. And then just, I think like really influencing, the people around me, my mom, my boyfriend, like getting them on the same page and, cleaning out our kitchens together and, making sure that we're all kind of living this toxin avoidance lifestyle.
Yeah.
To really, eliminate the toxins and avoid re-exposure, which is a big, big thing.
Yeah, I know you even said like there's a lot of supplements and things that you've taken for a long time.
Well, when I got the Toxin Test back, Dr. Savage's recommendation was you don't need TPE at this time. You'll be okay. But there are some things that you can do in the immediate in addition to, the clean food and water. And one of those things was activated charcoal, which is a binder. So it's been really effective too in combination with the IR sauna. So you're releasing all of these toxins out of your sweat and they're going through your gut. as well. So being able to take a binder that can cling to those toxins and make sure that they do fully come out of your body was another thing that I did. I do that sporadically. So I'll do it like for a few weeks and then I'll take a few weeks off and then I'll do it for a few weeks.
When do you take it?
I take it at night. I've heard different things on like best times to take it, but the literature that Paul shared with me said, take it at night. That should be okay.
Got it. Nice. Yeah, I have some of that. I'm like, but I haven't really been on it. I don't know if now's the time. I will definitely research before.
I think it's also worth mentioning. Another big component was working with an MDLifespan nutritionist. That's another, bonus area with working with MDLifespan, being an MDLifespan patient, is you have access to not only these toxicologists and these TPE specialists, but specialists in all these different areas that are there to advise you and guide you. So not being able to access TPE at the time, I really had to rely on my, food and changing that. And the way you eat, the way you supplement your body also supports your detox systems. So, making sure that you're getting your omega-3s, your vitamins were up. Those were all really big components in my lifestyle changes over the last year as well.
What are some things that have maybe popped up or have been like difficult in terms of the avoidance? Maybe it's like outside pressure, like your boyfriend, your mom, family, and just going out to eat. Like, are there a few things that you found kind of slip in or just sort of like pain points? You're just like, can't get past this for whatever reason.
I cringe at having to buy a coffee in a plastic cup now. That's something that is like, I still do it from time to time. I'm human. I give myself grace, but it's something I wouldn't have thought of before,
And you're talking like the to-go
cup,
the lid and all.
Which are coated in plastics. If you think about a paper cup holding hot coffee, the only way that that's possible is if it's coated in something that does not want to break down.
And you're also drinking through a lid that's plastic and is scalding hot, whatever.
Nobody wants to be that annoying friend out at dinner, that's like, I'm sorry, I can't have the sushi tonight, or, I'm sorry, is your tea served in plastic bags or is it freshly brewed? I don't want to be the pompous friend, but noticing those things in my life and just being aware. But it's also about balance. The reality is toxins are everywhere. They're in our environment. And if you can make a one-to-one swap every week, you're on the right track. It's almost impossible to live in this world without, consuming toxins or being exposed to them at some point. So you got to give yourself grace. You got to find what works for you, what, feels authentic for you, what fits into your lifestyle. I'm lucky, my boyfriend and I are very health conscious, so it's easy for us to implement these changes in our home. If that wasn't the case, it'd be a lot harder.
Right, for sure.
But yeah, you got to give yourself grace. You got to do what you can. And if you're lucky enough to do TPE, that's awesome. Do it, because it is the one unbiased, mechanism that allows for a body to reset. And there's really nothing out there like it. And to be able to work with doctors and a company that is, they're all truly dedicated to the betterment of their patients, something you don't find in traditional medicine these days. That's a huge thing. And detox was not a data thing for me. That was, you do a juice cleanse for 7 days. I feel great. I have good energy. My skin looks amazing. There's these little metrics that you convince yourself that are gauging your progress. But to actually be able to see the numbers and to know that, I went from here to here by doing these things is so much more impactful than a week juice cleanse to me.
You took it from, what was it, 10? I think it was toxins?
It was about 10 toxins to 2.
Yeah. And what was the time frame in between those tests?
It was about 12 months on the dot. Yeah.
That's crazy. Like so yeah. Okay, cool. And again, but it's not going to be the case for everybody.
It's not.
Everybody's body's different. But.
Yeah. Genetics play a huge factor. A lot of people don't know what their detox genes are, what they look like if they're malfunctioning. So that's, something that the protocols really take into effect. They want to look at how your body's operating, what your personalized situation is. So.
Yeah. Sarah, I wanna hear what your maybe some hiccups along the way, or maybe some family members, obviously kids too. I'm kind of curious what the outside pressure has done to you so far.
It's definitely the food with my children, the snacks and the school lunches, and shout out to the Yucca app because it's just changed. Going back to data, having a metric that shows you the value of the food. I'm not someone who's not going to purchase a Yucca product that's in the red because there's too much sodium or fat. That is what it is. But when I look at a Yucca rating and I see that, there's 5 or 6 high toxic additives, that I'm not going to buy. Mm-hmm. I have been on a journey with my children trying to get them to like the toxin-free food, and it is not easy. It's been very difficult.
Yeah, I mean, I'm dealing with the same stuff here too. But like, are there some big sweeping changes you've done food-wise with kids that have are they starting to get it, or are there things that they're liking a little bit more than others?
Yeah, the kind granola bars,
Those are good.
We buy those. We use Costco for as much, whole food type prepackaged like applesauce and crackers that we can get. But yeah, they're young. They all just want to eat a box of Ritz for dinner, and it's that was the biggest aha for me, is the garbage that is in Goldfish and granola bars and cereal and everything that as a new parent you're encouraged to buy your children. I always knew go to the perimeter of the grocery store for myself, and as soon as I had kids I was like, well, that's not going to work. So yeah, it's been a journey.
The Yucca app, I think that's a big one. I have the app, and I'm like, I don't always think to use it, but yeah, YUKA, I think that's right. You just scan something if it has a label, and boom, you have a clear picture of no go or okay. And yeah, and I know in the guidebooks for MDLifespan, which are a ton of awesome guidebooks, so definitely go to MDLifespan.com. I don't know the exact URL. Maybe do either of you?
It's /guidebooks.
I kind of assume so. But yeah, go there and look through, because there's a whole bunch of cool resources that you can dive in on, exactly what we're talking. Just pick which one feels right there. Well, to kind of wrap it up, so the results, it's interesting because Jessica, you shared you took from 10 toxins to 2, and obviously it's a lifelong journey. So it's not saying toxins will never come back in, so yeah. Avoidance and all this stuff you got to stay up with. And Sarah, you have 4 more TPEs to go through, and mm-hmm. I want to make sure we get you back on the show throughout maybe the course of that, or at the end, whatever. We'll talk about it, but you got to see what these results, because I'm curious about myself too. It's
can't wait to see your results.
Yeah, both of us. I know Sarah and I, just because I've talked through my results and had Dr. Savage on here break mine down. We have very similar. I don't have mine pulled up, but very similar. Lots of mold, a lot of stuff in the red. I had 20 something that were pretty up there. So yeah, it's just interesting journeys all around. I won't stress it enough, but go get your toxin test and talk, just to get the data, and at least you know where you're at. So MDLifespan.com/toxin test. Use the coupon code podcast200. And Any final words for the episode? So, Sarah, I guess over to you. Yeah.
Just say no to toxins, my friends.
It's so hard, though. They're everywhere.
They are everywhere.
Yeah, being awareness, and then avoid as much as possible. And I think it's nice that we're bringing more out there, and I think the awareness is becoming more of a thing. So hopefully the products will turn into that as well. And the good stuff. Jess, what you get?
Focus on small steps. It's really overwhelming, especially when you do get your toxin score, your toxin load. Yeah. But little steps can make a difference. So it's a lifestyle change.
Well, thank you both for like being super open and showing your results and stuff because
Yeah.
it's kind of like, ooh, this is there, it's like, but it's wild. Yeah. I think just don't be hard on yourself. That's what I guess I'll say. It's baby steps, empower others around you because it blows me away with friends and family that don't even just think of the plastic water bottles like it's or school lunches. Sarah, you brought that up, like because my daughter just started kindergarten and I look at this stuff in the school lunches and I'm just going to put away the whole sugar and it's in everything, which blows my mind. That's a whole nother subject.
And
Jessica,
food dyes.
yeah. Oh my gosh.
Dyes.
We won't go there. That's a whole nother topic. School stuff. Maybe Jessica, we got to get an expert on the podcast for that. I would love to. But yeah, I feel like the more that we influence us around us, hopefully there's a positive ripple effect that can turn the course of all this toxin stuff, at least in our own control. But
For sure.
thank you both for being awesome and being open. And let's do this again. All right.
Ready.
Thank
Let us
you.
know. Thank you.
Welcome. See you guys.
Goodbye.
Bye.